Cassette Clinics. The Ideal Case Presentations by Dr. Ghanashyam Vaidya. You are listening to the Case Presentations in Medicine, Elementary System. A case of ascites. A 40-year-old Hindu male patient, Yallappa, watchman by occupation, staying at Vijapur, comes with complaints of distension of abdomen, loss of appetite and weakness since 3 months, and breathlessness since 10 days. The patient was apparently alright 3 months back when he noticed mild distension of abdomen with the pants becoming tight over the waist. There was gradual loss of appetite and weakness with the distension gradually increasing over the past 2 months. What are the causes of slow or gradual distension of abdomen? Sir, ascites or collection of fluid in the peritoneal cavity, collection of fat or obesity, large bowel obstruction or subacute intestinal obstruction, intra-abdominal tumors, especially in the female patients, ovarian cysts and pelvic tumors, and in the childbearing age, pregnancy. Since 10 days, he is experiencing difficulty in breathing, especially in the lying down position. Why is there difficulty in breathing in lying down position? Because of the pressure of the fluid over the diaphragm, reducing the vital capacity of the lungs and restricting diaphragmatic movements. Can't it be orthopnea of cardiac origin? If there was history of orthopnea before the onset of ascites, then it is possible to point out CCF as the primary cause leading to ascites. But otherwise, on history, it is not possible to differentiate. Asking for history of associated symptoms, the patient complains of fullness of abdomen after food, no history of pain in abdomen, no history of fever, no history of vomiting, eructations, diarrhea or constipation. There is no history of wheezing, no history of chest pain, no history of cough or expectoration, no history of attacks of breathlessness or wheezing in the past. There is history of edema of legs and oliguria since 10 days. Yes. What could be the cause of edema of the legs with abdominal distension? Ascites with edema is seen in congestive cardiac failure, portal hypertension, hypoproteinemia and renal edema. Or it could be an intra-abdominal mass causing abdominal distension and pressing on inferior vena cava causing edema of the leg, as in retroperitoneal tumors, large pelvic tumors or a pregnant uterus. What do you think could be the causative factor here? Portal hypertension or any other cause of ascites with associated hypoproteinemia and edema. It is not likely to be renal as there is no edema of the face in the morning. Also, if it were due to congestive cardiac failure, edema of the legs would have appeared much before and much more prominently than ascites. So at this stage, I would think of ascites due to portal hypertension, exudative ascites and intra-abdominal tumor. Regarding history of complications, there is no history of hematemesis, no history of jaundice or altered consciousness, no history of bleeding tendencies. There is history of oliguria since 10 days. What are the causes of oliguria in ascites? Sir, hepatorenal syndrome in cirrhosis of liver and diminished glomerular filtration rate with sodium and water retention due to hyperaldosteronism. Regarding history of previous treatment, he was treated with diuretics and tonics without significant relief, no history of tapping. What is refractory ascites? Sir, ascites not responding to the regular medical line of treatment is termed as refractory ascites. Proceed. Regarding history of etiology, the patient is a chronic alcoholic since more than 15 years. How do you define a chronic alcoholic? Chronic alcoholic may be defined as one who has been consuming at least 80 grams of alcohol per day for more than 10 years. Why do chronic alcoholics develop ascites? Chronic alcoholics develop cirrhosis of liver with periportal fibrosis due to repeated hepatitis, which leads to portal hypertension and ascites. Also, they are undernourished with hypoalbuminemia, which contributes to the ascites. Proceed. No history suggestive of tuberculosis, that is, no history of fever, cough, expectoration, hemoptysis or weight loss, no history of urinary problems in the past, no history of bleeding PR or bowel symptoms suggestive of malignancy, no family history of liver disease. Which liver diseases are familial? Hemochromatosis, hemosiderosis, Wilson's disease, Gaucher's disease and glycogen storage diseases. In children, Gilbert's disease, Crigler-Najjar syndrome, Dubin-Johnson syndrome and Rotas syndrome are familial. Do they cause ascites? No, sir, they cause cirrhosis of liver, but they generally are infiltrative and do not cause periportal fibrosis or portal hypertension. So, ascites is not common.
Then why does ascites develop in alcoholic cirrhosis?
Due to periportal fibrosis causing increased hydrostatic pressure in the portal circulation and also increased lymphatic pressure with oozing of lymph from the liver surface.
Any other factor?
Sir, alcoholism results in undernourishment and anemia in addition to the liver cell dysfunction, resulting in hypoalbuminemia, which leads to reduced osmotic pressure and edema. Also, liver cell dysfunction will affect the aldosterone metabolism, resulting in increased levels of aldosterone and sodium retention. Personal history: the sleep is disturbed by breathlessness.
What is the significance of alteration of sleep rhythm?
Alteration of sleep rhythm in a patient with ascites may indicate an onset of hepatic encephalopathy.
What is hepatic encephalopathy?
Hepatic encephalopathy is a term used for the CNS changes that occur due to increased ammonia levels in systemic circulation, which leads to depression of neuronal activity. Ammonia produced by organisms in the gut is normally inactivated by the liver cells. In a failing liver, the liver is either unable to tackle all the load of ammonia coming from the gut, or the ammonia enters the systemic circulation directly through the portacaval shunts, resulting in raised ammonia levels. This leads to synthesis of false neurotransmitters like octapamine, which are responsible for the hepatic encephalopathy.
Yes. What are the sites where portasystemic shunts develop?
Sir, lower end of esophagus between left gastric veins and esophageal veins, lower end of rectum between superior hemorrhoidal veins and middle and inferior hemorrhoidal veins, around the umbilicus between veins in the falciform ligament and periumbilical veins, retroperitoneally over the bare area of liver between visceral veins of liver and diaphragmatic veins, and lastly in the linorenal ligament between the omental veins and the left renal vein. The patient is a chronic smoker and alcoholic, bowels, mild constipation, micturition, small quantities of high-colored urine since 10 days. On general examination, the patient is moderately built, undernourished, conscious and cooperative. Nails show pallor, koilonychia, no cyanosis or clubbing. Sclera shows mild icterus.
Is there icterus?
Yes, sir, I have taken the patient to the window and examined in bright sunlight. There is mild yellow tinge. I asked the patient to look at the toes and retracted the upper eyelid to inspect the sclera for yellowish discoloration.
Why did you inspect in bright sunlight?
Because mild icterus cannot be appreciated in artificial light.
Why do you say that the icterus is mild?
It is a clinical term indicating minimal yellow discoloration, the degree of jaundice being roughly proportional to the intensity of the yellow color of the sclera.
Why do you examine the sclera in particular?
Because sclera is rich in elastin tissue which has an affinity for bilirubin. And secondly, it is pure white in color, so even the slightest yellow tinge can be appreciated.
Why do you examine the upper part of the sclera?
Because it is not exposed to sunlight, so it will be white even when exposed sclera is muddy, because muddy sclera may give a wrong impression of icterus. The patient has angular stomatitis, no xerosis or Bitot spots.
Why do you get vitamin deficiencies in liver diseases?
Because liver cell failure leads to deficiency of carrier proteins which are essential for the transport of fat soluble vitamins, that is vitamins A, D and K. There is mild pitting edema over the feet and lower third of the legs, no significant lymphadenopathy, no stigmata of tuberculosis.
What does the lymphadenopathy signify in a case of ascites?
A matted lymphadenopathy in the neck or axilla would suggest tuberculosis as an etiological factor for the ascites, and enlarged left supraclavicular nodes, that is Furcow's glands, would make me suspect intra-abdominal malignancy. Vital signs: pulse is 80 per minute, regular, good volume, normal character and equal on both the sides. Blood pressure is 110 by 70 millimeters of mercury in the right arm in supine position. Respiratory rate is 20 per minute. Jugular venous pressure is normal. Looking for signs of liver cell failure, there is mild jaundice, there is gynecomastia, there is no loss of axillary hair, no spider nevi or palmar erythema.
Why does this patient have gynecomastia?
It is the effect of increased estrogen levels in the blood due to failure of the liver cells to metabolize the normal estrogen.
What are the other manifestations of increased estrogen levels?
spider nevi, palmar erythema, loss of axillary and pubic hair, and testicular atrophy with loss of testicular sensations.
What are spider nevi?
Spider nevi are vascular malformations in the skin with a central arteriole with radiating branches looking like the legs of a spider. They are seen over the chest, neck, and arms, that is, in the drainage area of superior vena cava.
What is their significance?
They indicate raised estrogen levels and are most commonly associated with cirrhosis of liver, where they increase in size and number with the progression of the disease. But occasional spider nevi may be seen in some normal people and are significant only when they are large and multiple, that is, more than 5.
Any other condition where spider nevi are seen?
In thyrotoxicosis, pregnancy, Cushing's disease, and patients on estrogen therapy. There is no loss of axillary hair, no loss of testicular sensations, no flapping tremors or altered consciousness, no Dupuytren's contracture, no parotid swelling.
Where else do you get loss of testicular sensation?
In leprosy, testicular tumors and testicular atrophy.
And what does Dupuytren's contracture indicate?
It suggests an alcoholic cirrhosis. On examination of the abdomen, on inspection, there is generalized distension of the abdomen with maximum fullness in the flanks in supine position.
What does fullness of the flanks suggest?
It suggests free fluid in the peritoneal cavity which gravitates to the flanks in lying down position. The abdomen moves with respiration, no abnormal pulsations, the umbilicus is transversely stretched.
What is it called?
A laughing umbilicus.
What other changes can occur in the umbilicus in ascites?
Transverse stretching, eversion, and umbilical hernia. The abdominal skin shows cutaneous striae and branding marks around the umbilicus. There is no scar of any operation.
What are striae?
They are pink linear marks on the skin due to excessive stretching of the skin, breaking the subcuticular collagen fibers. The stretching may be due to pregnancy, ascites, obesity, or Cushing syndrome. In standing position, a few dilated veins are seen around the umbilicus with blood flow away from the umbilicus.
What are they called?
Sir, caput medusae. If the veins are dilated and tortuous, radiating from the umbilicus like the snakes radiating from the head of the Greek mythological figure Medusa, then they are termed as caput medusae.
What do these veins signify?
Portosystemic anastomosis.
In which other conditions do you get dilated veins over the abdomen?
Dilated long veins in lateral part of the abdomen from the groin to the axilla are seen in inferior vena caval obstruction with the direction of the flow from below upwards. Similar veins with the flow downwards are seen in superior vena caval obstruction. And local dilated veins may be seen over abdominal wall tumors like sarcomas.
Proceed.
Hernial orifices are normal, no divarication of recti, no eversion of umbilicus.
What is divarication of recti?
Due to constant stretching of the linea alba in chronic ascites, the recti abdominis are separated and the thinned linea alba bulges out in the midline when the neck is raised from lying down position. This is termed as divarication of recti. The spine is normal.
What did you look for in the spine?
For lordosis, lordosis can cause false protrusion of the abdomen. Also, severe ascites can cause lordotic gait and secondary lordosis. On palpation, the abdomen is soft to feel, there is no tenderness. On palpation by dipping method, liver is not palpable, no tenderness under the right costal margin. Spleen is enlarged 4 cm from the left costal margin. It is not possible to note the other features of the spleen like consistency and notch due to the presence of ascites. No other lump is felt in the abdomen.
What other lump do you expect in ascites?
Malignant lumps in malignant ascites arising from the intestines, liver, and in females from the ovaries.
How did you palpate for the spleen?
By dipping method. With the patient in supine position, I placed my flat hand below the left costal margin and dipped the hand suddenly at the end of inspiration. This displaces the fluid temporarily and I could feel the firm spleen momentarily. On percussion, there is horseshoe-shaped dullness extending over both the flanks and hypogastrium. No fluid thrill.
How much fluid do you expect in this patient?
About 1.5 liters to 2 liters of fluid as there is horseshoe-shaped dullness.
How do you judge the amount of fluid in the peritoneal cavity?
If there is 500 ml to 1 liter of fluid in the peritoneal cavity, it can be detected by the Puddle sign, that is dullness around the umbilicus in knee-elbow position. Less than 500 ml fluid cannot be detected clinically. 1 to 1.5 liters of fluid will produce dullness of the flanks with shifting dullness, and 1.5 to 2 liters will produce horseshoe-shaped dullness, and more than 2 to 2.5 liters will produce a completely dull abdomen.
Then what does fluid thrill indicate?
Sir, fluid thrill signifies a tense or tight ascites. It may also occur with a huge ovarian cyst, a large hydronephrotic kidney, or pregnancy with hydramnios.
What is fluid thrill?
Fluid thrill is a fluid wave transmitted from one flank to the other flank through the fluid in the peritoneal cavity or abdomen.
How will you elicit it?
With the patient in supine position, I will ask an assistant to place his hand by the ulnar edge firmly in the midline to avoid transmission of the impulse along the abdominal wall. Then I will tap one flank with the other hand placed over the opposite flank. The palpating hand feels it as a thrust after a small gap following the tap.
And how do you demonstrate the horseshoe-shaped dullness?
By percussing in various directions from the umbilicus outwards to note the border between tympanic note in the umbilical area and the dullness in the flanks and hypogastrium. When the dullness is present in both flanks and hypogastrium with a concave upper border, it is termed as horseshoe-shaped dullness.
What is shifting dullness?
Whenever a dull percussion note is encountered in the flanks, keep the pleximeter finger just inside the border of dullness and turn the patient to the opposite side. After a few seconds, the same finger and sight displays a tympanic note, confirming that the dullness is due to free fluid in the abdomen. This is because on turning the patient to the opposite side, the fluid in the flank which was percussed gravitates to the opposite flank and the intestines float up, changing the percussion note from dull to tympanic. On auscultation, normal peristaltic sounds are heard, no venous hum or bruit, no hepatic or splenic rub, abdominal girth is 60 centimeters.
How did you measure the abdominal girth?
I measured it at the level of the umbilicus with the patient in horizontal position.
Where did you auscultate for venous hum and bruit?
I auscultated just above the umbilicus for venous hum, and for bruit, I auscultated over the liver span, spleen, and over the aorta. A venous hum may be detected in early cirrhosis even before the veins become prominent.
Proceed.
I would like to do per-rectal examination to look for piles and malignancy. My diagnosis is moderate ascites, most probably due to portal hypertension, secondary to alcoholic cirrhosis, with mild jaundice and anemia. My diagnosis is moderate ascites, most probably due to portal hypertension, secondary to alcoholic cirrhosis, with mild jaundice and anemia.
Why did you think of portal hypertension?
He is a chronic alcoholic with gradual onset abdominal distension and mild edema. There are dilated veins over the abdomen signifying portosystemic anastomosis. There is ascites with horseshoe-shaped dullness and enlarged spleen. So, the most likely cause is cirrhosis with portal hypertension.
What is portal hypertension?
Excessive pressure in the portal vein, that is pressure more than 30 centimeters of saline, is termed as portal hypertension. Normally, it is 10 to 15 centimeters.
What are the complications of portal hypertension?
Ascites, esophageal varices with hematemesis, hepatic encephalopathy and acute hepatic or hepatorenal failure, hypersplenism, and spontaneous bacterial peritonitis.
How do you treat the portal hypertension?
Medical treatment to reduce portal hypertension includes vasopressin and beta blockers, but that is a temporary measure to control the hematemesis in emergency. Definitive treatment is surgical, that is porta-caval shunt surgery. The most common shunt is linorenal shunt, that is splenic vein anastomose to left renal vein. The other shunts are porta-caval shunt, that is portal vein to inferior vena cava, and mesocaval shunts, that is superior mesenteric artery to inferior vena cava.
Why do you say it is due to cirrhosis?
The points in favor of cirrhosis are that it is a gradual onset ascites with no systemic symptoms like fever or weight loss. The patient is a chronic alcoholic, which is an important predisposing factor to cirrhosis. And there are signs of liver cell dysfunction like gynecomastia and mild jaundice while the liver is not palpable.
How does a patient with cirrhosis usually present?
The patient may be asymptomatic and cirrhosis may be detected when ultrasonography or liver biopsy is done for some other reason. He may present with splenomegaly or splenomegaly with ascites, or he may present with sudden hematemesis from esophageal varices or directly with hepatic encephalopathy.
How will you confirm the diagnosis?
By liver biopsy.
How will you confirm portal hypertension?
By ultrasonography with color Doppler study for the portal circulation, gastroscopy for demonstration of esophageal varices, and during laparotomy, cannulation of portal veins and direct measurement of the portal vein pressure.
How will you treat the ascites?
I will treat him on medical line of treatment with salt restricted high carbohydrate diet and diuretics like furosemide and spironolactone. If the ascites does not respond to these diuretics, I will add a short course of prednisolone, that is steroids, and mannitol. If ascites increases further to cause respiratory embarrassment, I will do tapping of the ascitic fluid. Since this patient has severe ascites and jaundice, portacaval shunts are not indicated, but palliative diversion of the fluid may be done by a peritoneofemoral shunt.
Suppose the patient had no splenomegaly, only ascites, then what would you have thought of?
A tuberculous ascites or malignant ascites.
And if he had only splenomegaly, no ascites?
I would still think of early stage of portal hypertension or extrahepatic portal hypertension, where there is massive splenomegaly and varices, but no caput medusae and no signs of liver cell failure. Apart from this, all other causes of splenomegaly will also have to be considered.
This is the end of the discussion on ascites in the series of case presentations in medicine in cassette clinics by Dr. Ghanashyam Vaidya.